Hey, and welcome back to another episode of High Minded with McCarter. I'm your host, McCarter. On this episode, we met with Vince DiMichele for the second time. It was very exciting. He is moving to Salt Lake City, Utah, so we had to get him back on before he left Boulder and give us an update on everything he's doing. He gave us some insight into the New York cannabis market that's going to come online soon. He is still working for Canna Advisors, helping write and research licensees or people or brands that are applying for new cannabis licenses in new markets. So he has such great perspective that he offers.
Yeah, he took us through state by state, how legalization is happening, how they're writing the legislation, and how it's being implemented. He also talked to us about entheogenic medicines and how licensing for that is happening, legalization is coming. Entheogenic medicines are psilocybin,
Mescaline,
DMT,
and there's several others. It's basically plant-based substances that can cause an altered state of mind or perception.
Yeah, it's a rebranding for the word psychedelics, I would say.
Yes.
Natural medicines.
Yes, exactly. So we're trying to use and implement that language more often.
Yeah, and we are located in Colorado, and this year on November 8th, Election Day, we will be voting on entheogenic medicines and its legalization. So
everyone do your research.
Yep, get out the vote if you
November 8th is the day.
Mark it now, and don't forget,
yes,
we're legalizing this bitch.
This is very exciting for plant-based medicines and a lot of other things that are going to be on the ballot, hopefully that address maybe some climate change issues.
Oh my gosh.
Helping our soil and our air, all things we talk about on the podcast and care deeply about. But back to Vince, we also talk more about the psilocybin businesses and people that can apply for licenses currently in Oregon, which is really exciting. So I'm like, maybe we should move there.
Yeah, I think our future might be in Oregon unless things change.
Or rapidly. Just get involved in the local government here and make it happen quickly here, because that is a lot of what we talk about with Vince as well, how to implement and get things involved into your local government to get things changed. It's great. And thank you to our episode sponsor, Hemper. I love my Hemper subscription box. I get it every month in the mail. It comes with all the things I need that I'm about to run out of, like a lighter, hemp wick, a new bowl or piece that's super clean.
Yeah, I just got the debowler. It's a life changer. Every time I need to...
so good.
I don't get ash anywhere on my hands anymore. No one knows. It's
we
great.
Love the debowler.
Thank you, Hemper.
Yes, thank you, Hemper. Use code McCarterGetsHigh to save at hemper.co.
And remember to follow us, subscribe, review on all of the podcast apps.
Yes.
And on Instagram at HighMindedPod.
Yay! And as always, stay high.
My name is Vince DiMichele. Second time here on the podcast with Emily, and now SK as well. Glad to be here. I am an attorney in Colorado. I work in the cannabis industry as a cannabis licensing consultant, so like writing applications for licensing in newly legalized states. I also DJ a little bit, play guitar, write some songs, and am interested in getting involved in psychedelic licensing and helping states write those laws.
Cool.
Because they need the help.
Yeah, we're very interested in that, for
yes.
sure.
You're amazing. You're an amazing friend.
You're amazing.
Thank you so much for coming back on. I think you are one of the smartest people I know and provide such great insight. And we are passionate about such similar things. So it's great. And you provide that legal perspective we're all so interested in that we don't quite fully grasp, I feel like. But right before we started recording, we were talking about a lot of things. The industry's changing. A lot of brands in Colorado are cutting staff, laying people off, debating if they should, continue planting, growing, whatever, producing. So could you just give us like a little update on the industry of like what's the status right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a reflection of the American economy that was inflated over the last 2 years with Treasury pumping money into the system during COVID to just keep it afloat. And then people now getting back out and spending a ton on these things, driving, inflation up, making, the cost to produce goods so much higher. And then the most effective way to cut costs as a business that employs a lot of people is to lay off people. But that, I think, a lot of the probably explosion in the, especially even Colorado in the last 2 years, like a lot of new products on the market, a lot of new businesses coming in, that was ultimately unsustainable at the level that it was, and so now correcting back, unfortunately.
Do you have any idea like what went wrong, where we took the wrong turns?
Right.
And is this, follow up to that, is this only in Colorado or is this happening everywhere, you think, in California, Oregon, everywhere that's been legalized kind of with rec?
So I can't speak for sure. I don't know for sure. I would imagine so in some way. But, you brought up the specifics of the Colorado market too. There's a unique situation there where, a supplier came in, bought a lot of cannabis, sold really cheap cannabis and drove prices down. And then now you have that on top of the overall market situation. So probably worse in Colorado than other places. But I mean, I would imagine this stuff is going to become news pretty quick and we'll be reading about it.
Shit.
Yeah.
Short term or a long term issue that we're going to deal with? I mean,
Right. The lawyer answer, like, it depends. But overall, I think short term, because the momentum of the cannabis industry and the strength of it thus far and the breadth of it is too big to go under completely. Yeah. And people will turn to that in hard times, right? Like,
they still want their vices.
Exactly. Like,
Definitely.
Yeah. So liquor sales are always good in a recession. So hopefully,
that's what I was thinking.
This will be the first test of cannabis sales in a major recession, perhaps, if we see that.
Yeah, I do just think it's sad because I feel like, as we've seen with history, the smaller, family run businesses that don't have the capital investment behind them are going to be the ones that shut down first and can't, afford to live and work through the recession.
No, exactly. I mean, we were already seeing that at this point in the industry, a lot of merging going on, a lot of things going under and being bought up by the larger MSOs. And so I bet that will be, a symptom that's a little longer term of this period coming up, is seeing that, aggregation of the industry. But then it falls back to states to regulate it, right? It's not a free market for cannabis. You can't just open a cannabis store. Like, you have to get a license from the state. So the state can literally take away licenses, like they have the power to, they can only give new licenses to social equity qualified people, build the industry back up from that, give it to former local business owners, maybe prioritize even awarding new licenses to people who had them and lost them during this period. It's a tough argument to make, though, as a cannabis business owner, because if your business went under, that's kind of the state, like, well,
it's like,
do we want to give it back to you?
Yeah.
Or are you just like a weight on the market? But ultimately, it's like, like you were saying, the market conditions that make that create the situation where the smaller businesses are going to go under first.
Yeah. So I also heard that with this kind of recession period coming up, that we're going to see like over 50% of the brands possibly die in Colorado. And I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that projection is, going to be accurate, but crazy numbers and very sad to think about.
It's like the movie studios in the Great Depression.
Right.
Well, that does stem from, a structure of the system where you can create a brand and then not have a license. Like, we have many friends who have brands that, use a manufacturing licensee. They have a deal with them to produce their product, right? So that allows for a lot of, side hustle business in the market, which is great and great for the consumer because more products then enter the market. You get more competition. But those are then again, they're like the small business. Those are the first to go. Those are like the ancillary things on the side of the market.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about it with Canadvisors, right? We're an ancillary service.
Yeah,
we
I was like,
advise on
are
application
you worried
pursuits.
about your future?
If the state's not doing licensing, like we don't do what we do. So no, I mean I've thought about it, but that ideally the transition is into psychedelic stuff. So
Yeah, what does it
Right.
look like on that side, regulation and stuff? Have you done stuff with the state of Colorado at all, or?
no, I have not. Oregon has the psilocybin licensing program up. It looks relatively similar to cannabis licensing. Then Denver just, has psilocybin decriminalized, but I believe like ibogaine, peyote, ayahuasca, mescaline were on the docket. I forget what
Okay.
before, but entheogenic plants are on the bill to be decriminalized this session or coming. Or something.
Okay,
great.
cool.
For Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It's
I believe so.
California, Michigan, and Colorado are voting on legalization, I think, for psilocybin this year too, in November. So
And I just heard from my mother that Missouri is finally probably going to have rec on the ballot in November
Nice.
for cannabis.
I mean, it's crazy. A lot of the business we've been doing recently has been in the South.
Wow.
Mississippi just had a licensing
Yeah.
round, or it's open right now. Alabama's is coming up. Texas is making moves.
No
So,
way.
Yeah.
I never thought that Texas.
Rumblings from Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, can you shed some more light into like what's going on in the South with cannabis and what the views are from people?
So it's interesting because Mississippi is a funny example. So the state wrote a law that they thought the people wouldn't pass. Like it was basically a defunct thing that like couldn't work based on the way it was written. And the people just saw legal cannabis and they were like, yeah. And it was passed by 74%. It was like a
Amazing.
74% vote.
hell yeah.
Everyone
I
wanted,
love
right?
that.
So, but then, see, now the issue is, so they tried to make that program. It wasn't going to work. So they stripped that away, like recalled that, pulled it back, then wrote a new program that's going on now. But it's written by people who don't want cannabis to be legalized, right? Like these people, these lawmakers are doing it because they have to
This sounds
to save
like
face. And like,
Quebec. I was just up in Montreal. This literally sounds like Quebec was like forced to do cannabis because
Okay.
Canada legalized, but the lawmakers are very anti-cannabis there. So please continue.
yeah. So in Mississippi, laws being written by people who don't want cannabis to be a thing. So the program is not doesn't look very good, right? It was a very muddy application process. Like the applications were basically copy and pasted. There were no guidelines other than basic titles for things. So to give you an example, it can be like operating plan for your business, and it'll just say operating plan. It won't say like, please describe, how many plants you plan to have, or, what your growing conditions are going to be, or sanitation and things like that, right? Sometimes, and in Mississippi, they had a few other plans, SOPs for different things, but no sub prompts, no guidance. Like it was clearly quickly drafted and just kind of bare bones. And that, ultimately that does work in setting up a cannabis thing. Like you can, some states straight up copy paste from other states the laws for the program, but you end up with a program that is, corrupt ultimately, or like, is only going to serve the wealthiest, the best prepared, the people with the most land. And that's what's definitely happening in Mississippi.
Wow.
it's a shame.
Yeah.
So they're obviously not prioritizing like social equity or, people that have already been impacted by the war on drugs.
That's not too surprising, unfortunately.
God.
There, but you just went on a tour of the East Coast.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd love
What
to hear
states
about
did you
that.
go to?
Am I
What were
looking
you
much
doing?
better? So it was just New York.
Okay.
So because New York is probably going to, hopefully set the standard for this sort of thing going forward.
And they're going to be a huge market.
Exactly. So we were doing a little tour started in Rochester, went to Albany, and then Brooklyn. Each of those stops giving a talk to people and, soliciting business for what we do on the licensing process in New York and, what we know so far, what the best strategies are for, acting in what we know so far, with the information we have now, here's what you can do type of stuff. And that went really great. Love the people I work with, love my team. So traveling around with them was awesome. Great time.
Yeah.
Driving in a van.
Oh, nice.
But how much free information do you give out in these talks, I guess?
So the thing is right now we couldn't even probably give any information that mattered because the application isn't out.
Okay.
So
it's all if.
Right.
If this is the application, then if and then.
Well,
yeah, it's
and also general advice saying even no matter what, if the application is, here's what you can do right now to prepare.
Okay.
So that when it comes out, you can actually do it. That you're not getting the application and being surprised that they want to see a financial plan or a background check.
Okay.
Knowing that those things are probably coming because it's a license process.
Okay.
Identifying a facility,
Nice.
Talking to your local government, building a team, all those things you can start doing before you ever see the application.
Right.
Is there any ETA on the application
New
in
York?
New York? Because I feel like I've heard this for a while of this application may or may not come out anytime.
Yeah, so they're definitely taking their time. There is a provision in the statute that says that the social equity board has to be appointed, and I believe they still haven't even done that. And then they have 90, 120, I can't remember what number of days from that date that the board is appointed to release the regulations.
Okay.
New Jersey had the same thing, and they were a little late on that, but it still happened around that time. New York they're going slow, which is, in my mind, a good thing.
It sounds like it's the opposite of just copying and pasting and
exactly
free for all.
Well, and even you can do copying and pasting and then editing, right?
Right.
Of what you do,
It's be intentional
use
a
the
little
bulk
bit.
exactly, yeah. But New York, there's definitely going to be a ton of business. It was very exciting talking to people at each stop. Brooklyn was the highlight with a lot of people there, a lot of very interesting, influential people that want to get involved or already involved in the cannabis industry. Very fun.
That's so exciting.
I'm famous, but
Yeah,
Was
was Jay-Z
people.
there?
I was just gonna say Jay-Z because I've heard obviously that he's trying to
expand his empire.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
But
So
that's exciting. How many people are there?
in
Were there?
Brooklyn it was probably 80.
Whoa! Wow. Okay.
Yeah, cool. That's great.
That's awesome.
And New York is very interesting because right now in New York, you can walk into any bodega and they can sell you a bag of, there's a bag of weed right on the counter and they'll sell it to you.
Amazing.
And then there's these clubs that are more actually like dispensaries where you get a membership, you get products that are cannabis, right?
Wow.
So there's going to be interesting competition between new licenses and then these already established brands that are operating illegally.
Yeah.
So what New York has said, they're not going to, enforce the cannabis laws on these businesses right now. They're going to let the tax department do it. So, you're making sales, you're not paying tax. So they're going to try to enforce through tax on that stuff because they do want to give people the opportunity to still enter the business or enter the industry. Because if you had, a violation of the cannabis laws before you even applied for a cannabis license, that's, damning.
flag.
So they want to go after it for tax, take out the biggest people who are doing it, the worst, and hopefully allow that to chill the illegal operators so that they can have a relatively clean slate coming in. Because not only can you walk into any bodega and get weed, there's a bike service that will deliver it to you anywhere in New York City. They're fantastic.
I've been doing those for years.
They give you a free eighth on your first time with them, it's great. Yeah.
And I've been seeing on Instagram the food trucks that are dispensaries, and they'll just pull up in neighborhoods.
Those all got ticketed recently. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
There was a famous group of food trucks that sell in New York. Yes, food trucks. Yes, there was a spot where they all hang out apparently, and they all got ticketed and arrested that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now time for a quick commercial break. Major shout out to today's sponsor, Hemper. Check them out at hemper.co or follow them on Instagram at HEMPER. My favorite thing about the Hemper monthly subscription boxes, they always come with stuff I seriously need, like this debowler that's silicone. I use it all the time to cache my bowls for my bong. And it's amazing. I don't know what I would do without it. They're just always really fun to get in the mail, and it always has stuff I need. Like, I'm not running out to go get a lighter or the hemp wick I just ran out of because I just got some in the box. So be sure to use code McCarterGetsHigh at hemper.co. What about people that are doing this for psilocybin and making psilocybin businesses like gummies or capsules? So the only legal way to do that right now is apply for a license in Oregon, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So I know people, like a lot of people in California are doing this.
Yes. I think Boulder I heard someone said that to me the other day, that Boulder might be doing it soon, but I didn't check on it. So that's where it's at right now,
Yeah.
Ideally, we see it there's no reason why it wouldn't right now continue in Colorado. So we'll see. I think it, next couple, in the next 6 months to a year, we definitely have a better idea of what Colorado's going to do. But I would say nothing's happening in that time frame.
Are you working with any companies, like, kind of in hopes that it does come about, or?
So I know of someone who started an entheogenic church in Denver. Not very close with them, but then...
Is that a workaround because it's a religion?
Well, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also who I'm going to be living with in Park City.
Oh.
She is a pharmacist and is thinking about getting into this as well.
Nice.
Yes. So that's a lot of why I'm excited to go there as well, to live with her and see what we can do with this.
We're sad you're leaving Boulder, but on to your next adventure, next chapter.
Yep. I mean, I never recommend doing anything illegal, but like it's tough to enforce at a small scale.
Right. That was kind of my next question.
What's going on?
Because there's so many people doing it now. So it's like, how would they even go about, like enforcing? Is it like, do they literally tax or whatever? I mean, give everyone tickets or whatever.
It's like, I guess that's how they would crack down on it, but...
I mean, they're probably going still after just the biggest traffickers, which means that, I would say someone who's growing their own and just, making whatever they wanted out of that is going to be, a non-blip on the radar,
Have you heard of any, like, crackdowns on psilocybin?
Not that I've heard of.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there have been some, but like, no, never have I, gotten a chocolate bar and then heard that chocolate bar's producer got busted or something,
Yeah.
That's never happened.
I know some, like, over 10 brands already that are, I'm sure you do. Have you seen?
Yeah, so many.
Yeah. So, like, just what's your view of that and, like, starting something before the regulations are there?
You are taking the risk of saying that you have experience or, coming off as a rule breaker. Right?
Okay.
Like, those are the two things you're dealing with there. And I will say it is definitely a fine line, because people who, were able to operate in the legacy market with cannabis successfully without getting caught, their experience looks great on application. Someone who operates and gets a felony, they are not allowed to have a license, right? So...
Wait, they can't even work for someone with a license?
Big risk. Well, it depends. In some states, if you have an offense that was a cannabis-related offense, you are now qualified for social equity. Like, trying to recuperate the community. But in some states, it doesn't matter. If it was a felony level charge,
wow,
you can't own a license. Yeah. So,
but can you still, if you own a license, can you still hire people with, like cannabis.
Like, can you get
felony.
your badge if you have a cannabis felony?
Does it depend on the state?
It does depend on the state. Like in the situation where I was saying where you couldn't, no, I mean, you couldn't be a part of the business. And like people definitely try to do this, try to set up prop businesses, like put their mother on the application, their sister, whoever.
Yeah.
That's not them. It really just depends on the state situation. It's,
Wow.
You could be involved in the business and not have to disclose any sort of finances about the business. You could have to disclose a certain percentage. You could just have to disclose an amount that will show that you can run the business, and then anything extra over that, like, you don't have to show. Sometimes people can, be the CEO because it's social equity. Sometimes can't touch it at all. It really depends. Yeah.
Well, in the last 2 years since we've talked to you on the podcast, have your views kind of shifted about federal legalization or any projecting into the future you'd like to share?
Probably not. So, yeah, it's just so hard to know. I mean, because it seems like it's now just a baton that's getting passed around at the federal government level for, like, who's going to be the one who gets to legalize,
Yeah.
It does seem like both parties are kind of trying to put their stamp on it, like win the legalization battle.
Yeah, exactly. So that's frustrating. Mm-hmm. So that's tough to tell because I don't have any insight into who is winning the legalization battle,
Right, but it's
Politics
all
of DC elude me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no rhyme or reason for sure.
Yeah. Well, I definitely just wanted to be, declassified or reclassified or declassified altogether. In another proper.
Yes. Yeah.
Which one would be better?
Well, so reclassification is, probably somewhat accurate, though the structure for it would hurt the industry. So reclassification, would be making a different schedule, maybe saying that has some therapeutic benefit. From there, though, it would have to go to universities for study. A lot of the lower schedulings, they can be researched, but only by accredited universities or some restriction, right? So that, has some value. I think it should be researched more, but that then takes it away from the rec market. You can't do it anymore until we're done researching, or the only stuff can come from
even though the
research studies.
state law is already in place?
Well, then it would be almost like a new leg of the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Is anyone pushing for that approach?
I'm sure pharmaceutical industry, constituents are.
Oh, no.
I really
Fuck
don't
big
like it when
pharma.
they get their way. Yeah.
It's thanks for all the stuff you give us,
Thanks for killing all those people. Now here's more power.
Advil and all the other stuff. But then it's they're also responsible for so much harm and lying and
the
deceit.
opioid crisis.
Yeah, and the opioid crisis. Yeah.
We could go get some willow bark for ourselves and make aspirin. Pharmaceutical company. Be gone
Very
with you.
true.
Yeah.
I just learned that. Thank you, SK.
Yeah. We're here about the plant medicine,
Yes.
Willow bark.
I do just wanted to stay, I guess, in the hands of the state,
Yeah, ultimately, I think so. Declassification is great. Lets the states do what they want, as they are.
So it takes it off the schedule list completely?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that the one thing that gives me the most hope about it being the future is the momentum of the cannabis industry in the states, and that even places like Texas or states that have been banning abortions are legalizing cannabis.
Right. Tell us about what is that about?
What?
How does that work?
How can you?
I know.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance a little.
Well,
bit.
I think it's also it's power. These politicians they change their stance to whatever will get them the most votes from their constituents, right? So it's just a reflection of where Texas is at. Is Christians are okay with blazing, but not with babies being aborted.
So what's happening with Texas though? Because that market really intrigues me.
Yeah, so Texas originally was going to give out 12 licenses back in its first medical round. I think they only ended up actually awarding 3.
What?
So Texas has been operating with those 3 for a while. There are rumblings now that they will be awarding more in the more medical licenses.
Okay.
Some, connections in Texas saying this, the state looking like it's going to do it. So it'll be more medical licenses.
Okay. But
Yeah.
no talk about Rick.
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you work with anyone in Smokelahoma?
We do. Yeah, a really great guy.
What's the deal there with unlimited licenses and the market
I don't know.
compared to Colorado?
Yeah. I think they just put a moratorium on awarding more. Like they just did it.
Oh, really?
It just came up. I remember seeing. But yeah, I mean, it's basically just like good luck, being successful.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
like free market in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
And like the best
cool
will
in that.
succeed.
but
like
oversaturated, right? So it's like
So
but like
oversaturated.
natural selection,
right. But also but like, but even if so, like if you think about if we had too many farms for soy or something, we would just have to be giving up all our land to fucking soy farms, that we don't want because there's too much soy. Like that's
Yeah.
what's happening, right? Properties are being bought, grows are being built where we don't need them or want them.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
too much.
So it's just going to waste then.
Yeah, exactly. And
Prices
so,
are going to be super low. And
Yep. Price will be low. It'll get a bad rap.
Yeah.
It'll be for
And like eventually it'll level itself out, but like in the meantime, that's like a lot of probably like money, time,
voting power.
energy. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Right? People will say, look at this facility that just went up. All this construction happened, and then a year later it was empty.
Wow. Shit's about to get crazy, I feel. I mean, it's already getting crazy with everything.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting because I just don't know how it will interplay in the world that we have, right? It's like certain, it feels like there are certain entities that are too big to fail. Like, it's like if it started to get really bad, Amazon stock is going down and Bezos calls someone and then they work out how to like fake make money again. I don't know. It's all our whole money system is designed to be cyclical so that international bankers can profit off of it. The Federal Reserve, like Andrew Jackson, I believe, signed it into law and then went and wrote a letter to himself in his journal that night where he was like, I just fucked everyone.
Really?
Yeah. You should look this up. It's crazy. Yeah. Started the Federal Reserve and then was like, I just handed the keys to my country's future to international bankers.
I've heard about this. I haven't read it. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely.
Check it out. So
Yeah.
the simple thing is essentially what happened just now. So the people who ran the Federal Reserve pumped money into the economy, right? When at a time when it was clear that it would cause inflation afterwards to basically make themselves money. So they bought stock in the S&P 500, had ownership of the American economy, then in their fucking job were pumping money into the economy, then sold as they were the ones who basically got the first data that this was coming, right? They got out. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, should just, like, bring out the guillotine. Like, there's no other form of justice than
Watch
that
out, Jerome
then that
Powell.
heads should roll. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's tough because the only remedy is political, right? They have to be, you have to get them out with votes because an officer of a United States agency, can't be arrested for something that they are doing on their job, right? That's part of their job duties.
Is there an impeachment process for
the Federal Reserve?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. It's just
Wow.
it's an appointment thing.
Yeah, it's like I feel like Jerome Powell really dropped the ball on not raising interest rates at any time before he actually did it.
I know.
And now we're just like watching the world like go to shit.
Why? Because he owned. It was
Yeah.
selfish interests.
Totally.
Like he and his gang of goons owned stock, and they were like, "No,
And
we
then,
can't.
like,
we can't
cashed out at
raise
the
interest
top.
rates."
Yeah, they
exactly.
were just like,
yes.
we'll just keep
And so
holding
did
on
so
as it
many
goes up and up.
United States senators.
How do we take these people down?
The guillotine, Emily.
Literally, I'm like, let's revolt.
That's it. I mean, subverting as best you can, like having conversations like this and recording them and putting them out there.
Telling
is
the
important,
people.
is important. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think ultimately, as sucky as it's politics, like getting into it ourselves and being more involved at a larger level and having, because right, it's like you've built up so many arguments and logical, thought patterns for why cannabis is great and why it will work. You've soaked these up from all the conversations you've had. Like, that's how I feel. I'm just regurgitating all the stuff I've heard, right? And you can now pass on a very powerful, simple idea or argument to people that, other people who are less versed in the things cannot, or, the people who you'd be passing it on to, they're just getting it from their circles, which don't talk about it very much. And so it's probably either very extreme or very minor and not impactful, right? So people like us can come in and say, no, this, and this is what you should be caring about. The fact that it brings security to communities and money to communities, but it has to be regulated well. It can't go crazy giving everyone licenses. And we should, make social equity a priority and get people back. The fact that there are, billionaires off of the cannabis industry, multimillionaires off of the cannabis industry, and there are still people in jail who possessed, a few ounces is absurd.
Fucked.
Is absurd. And but those are the conversations that need to be happening in the place where the laws are made, right? Like, those things need to be regularly happening.
So do we just have to infiltrate ourselves?
Yes, right? Starts at the city level.
Damn it.
Take it from there.
Yeah. Do you know what the easiest path for the normal
just
citizen
befriend
to kind of
all the people on all the cannabis committees, basically?
I mean, definitely having friends helps. My friend who has recently got involved in politics in Houston and is doing quite well for himself, I actually had a call with him recently to discuss exactly that question. Like, how do normal people get, where do I go? How do I start?
Yeah.
And be likable.
Be likable, obviously. I mean, if you're at this point where you care this much about it to think about getting into politics, you're probably pretty likable, or can at least make feel like you when you're talking about this,
Yeah.
But basically, going and having conversations with people. So calling a city council member, starting there, and then finding something to fix. Maybe it's not the big thing that you're aiming for, but just going and fix something. And my buddy Alex said at the city level, there's so many things to fix. There's a ton of things that you could just, if they had the manpower and you just, help them do this, they can get it done. You can help them get it done. And then you build a reputation that way.
Like, the thing I want to fix the most is right now Boulder has a 29% tax on recreational cannabis. I want to fix that. I don't think I can. Or that it's the fight that needs to be fought.
But what's the happy medium is bringing it down to 25%, 22%. Like, what's going to make everyone happy? Because you can't just go in and be like, oh, it needs to be like 10% because,
For sure. It's probably not the main issue, but
yeah, it's
in
like,
my mind,
because we did talk to someone, remember Gentleman Quinn's?
Mm-hmm,
They're close with,
they're on the regulatory board for
Yes.
the businesses in the pre-roll.
Yeah, pre-roll category of the industry in Denver or Colorado specifically, but they're obviously working at the Capitol with these committees. And a lot of the people on the committee do not actually smoke and have no idea about the process of the flower. And so they actually got, I think you'll probably remember when they enacted those new pre-roll testings, that every pre-roll had to be tested a second time. So basically there was like a third test that was happening in there too, and they somehow got that off. So it was one less test that needed to happen because it was redundant basically. So it's kind of like that stuff where it's it has to be a happy medium. It can't just be no testing. It has to be okay, well, let's make it
For sure.
reasonable.
Yeah. That's there's some an issue in Colorado is there's certain tests for mold that you can only test. It triggers at 0 to 5 parts per billion, and that's the smallest measurement of testing for trace testing.
Yeah.
And so you can't have any of that mold on there. So you're bombing the plant with a moldicide and a fungicide.
Yeah.
And if you're not flushing that out properly, that's getting in the final product and is gross. And that's just a regulatory issue. And there's certain, I don't know where we go with that, right? I don't know if that type of mold is so deadly that you can't have that, or if there needs to be then a post-flushing test process for, non-cannabinoids in the plant, things like that. Yeah.
I forget who we talked about this with on a prior interview, but it was basically with all the fires happening in the ash that fell on the plants, like so much product and cropped had to be like thrown out.
Yeah, because heavy metals and stuff were getting
from
in there.
the ash, and it's like, wait, but we're still breathing in that air. So like what? Like,
Yeah.
how does that make sense? Like, no one's regulating that air that's going in our bodies.
Even less and less as the Clean Air Act's about to get overturned too. So, sorry, not to do all that, but
No, it's just true.
Clean
I mean,
water,
yet
clean air.
another reason to get involved in politics, right? It's like,
I know.
goodness gracious,
I might
it's time, I
have
guess.
to.
How loud does the universe have to scream at us so we have to do this? Like, I guess, you know?
I know.
I really didn't want to, but doesn't seem like there's another way.
I've been thinking more about it. as
McCarter
well.
2024.
No. No.
Okay.
But just with the law school thing and like learning all about the laws so I know, and then being able to apply that to our favorite things, plant-based medicine.
Exactly. And that's what, you were saying. A lot of the people working on this board, this committee, hadn't smoked, don't consume cannabis. That's definitely an issue that I fear will happen with the psychedelic industry, where you have now doctors administering ketamine who have never done ketamine. I mean, they're also viewing it as a anesthetic, maybe antidepressant, but it's a psychedelic thing, and it should be administered by a guide, someone who has, done this before, and then have a doctor there, right? Have two. Like, that's how most of the best high dose, guiding is done. So that's, where I want to give my knowledge, being someone who knows about the law and, high dose guiding.
And the anecdotal
the exploratory
experience
stuff. Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
And the empathy, really, right?
Yes.
Like, it's difficult for a human being to have empathy for someone for someone going through something that they don't understand, they can't understand. They might even view as wrong, or, what a weak person does, to have that energy in the room, like in the setting of the psychedelic experience, is not the way people are going to heal,
No.
Yeah,
People need to be supported and uplifted.
and it's so much about connection, like to not be connected in that way. It's
Exactly. A
detrimental.
waste.
Yeah,
A waste,
totally. It's like almost bad.
Right?
Oh, well, shit, I might need to go to law school.
Yeah, do it up.
Okay, well, it's almost 6.
Okay, yeah,
Thank
I gotta
you
go.
so much for doing round 2.
Yeah.
Vince DiMichele.
Round 2, baby.
Wait, should we ask our final question really quick? Do we have time for it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I asked you. I don't think I asked you in the episode before. No.
I don't think so.
No,
I
yeah.
didn't. Yeah, no.
So we have a question we ask everyone now. It would be, if you could smoke weed or just, I guess, consume psychedelics as well, since that's on the table, with anyone alive or dead, but not family, who would it be and why?
And how would you consume?
Yes. Oh, and I threw in the other day, or a couple months ago now, that it could also be like a fictional character if it's like well known. Because I was like, I would love to smoke a joint with the Six Flags guy.
Well, now that you say that, I would love to get drunk on rum with Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh, yes.
Seems like a very fun time.
That would be Johnny Depp. We love you.
It's like as Captain John Sparrow.
But yeah, he would have to be in character. Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good one.
This one's general, but like, I have a lot of friends that I do LSD with, and any of those, that top tier of my LSD friends, doing LSD with them is always amazing.
Oh,
Nice.
good.
Ideally from a vial.
Okay.
Like liquid.
Okay.
Yeah. There are too many to name,
Sure.
but
Oh, but we meant
You
more
know
of
who
like,
you are.
You know
public,
who you are.
if there's any public figures or like
right.
in history.
Yeah, you want to like smoke a joint with
Like-
like Thurgood Marshall or something. I don't know.
So a little left field, but Fela Kuti. So he was an African musician who was a big proponent of legalizing cannabis back in the 70s. He was eventually murdered by the government, I believe.
Ugh.
He was a big political activist.
Rest in
and
peace.
he was, incredible musician. His son, Femi Kuti, just played at Levitt Pavilion for free a couple weeks ago, and I went, and it was amazing.
Damn
nice.
That
So
sounds
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Wow,
great.
okay,
I need to
cool.
look
Now I
them both
want to
up.
go to Nigeria. I want to do a trip to Nigeria.
Wow.
I'll come with you. Let me
Yeah.
know.
Just eat,
I'm trying to
go
go
to
everywhere.
shows, dig records, smoke the African herb.
Nigeria's
Dude, I will
huge.
accompany you.
Let's do it.
A quarter of the African population is Nigerian, and a third of the African
Wait.
GDP is Nigerian.
Wow.
So just a fun.
How do you know this?
I read an article in The Economist, and it stuck with me so specifically.
Wait, can you say those numbers again?
1/4 of the population of Africa is from Nigeria, and 1/3 of the GDP of Africa is Nigerian.
Wow.
Oil, and
There's a lot of-
Coastline and
There's a lot of
totally.
oil there.
yeah, it's also pretty large.
yes, huge.
Yeah, a lot of oil in the Delta River Valley.
Wow.
Good Ted Lasso little side story about the oil in the Delta, the Niger Delta. Anyway,
Seen the movie Sahara? Matthew McConaughey.
yes,
Love
it's been a
that
long
movie.
time. That was good.
So good.
Wait, I need to add this to my list.
It's really good.
Well, that was great. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vince. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
thanks for having me.
Vince. We love you. You're the best.
Love you.
Best of luck moving to Park City.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And you gotta legalize cannabis while you're
That's
there.
the plan, baby.
Woo! Love it. And as always,
Stay high.
Stay high.